Welcome to discussion number 18, where we'll be discussing chapters 10 through the end of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This time around, we're going to be focusing on specific literary elements within the text, so make sure that you have downloaded the handout that is directly below this video to help you follow along, and it might be helpful for you to take some notes on this as well as we go through. So the first literary element or aspect that I want to point out about the Sorcerer's Stone is Rowling's use of indirect discourse, which is also sometimes referred to as free indirect speech. I will always refer to it in this context and in this course as indirect discourse, but do know that other people refer to it as free indirect speech. So indirect discourse is a style of third-person narration, which some of the characteristics of third person, so we're not necessarily seeing the first person point of view, but it uses the essence of first person direct speech. So it picks up some of those mannerisms that a first person point of view might have. So she uses this throughout the Sorcerer's Stone to give us an insight into whose mind or which character we're supposed to be aligned with. So for example, in the very beginning of the book, when we have the Dursleys' point of view, she writes on page 3, people in cloaks. Mr. Dursley couldn't bear people who dressed up in funny clothes, the get-ups you saw in young people. So while we receive information about Mr. Dursley and who he is and what he believes in, the narrator also takes the same point of view as him, but still keeps it in third person point of view, right? So she uses phrases like people in cloaks and the get-ups you saw in young people. Mr. Dursley doesn't actually say any of this. The narrator is saying this, but she's taking on his characteristics and personality using this indirect discourse. The next literary aspect that I want to talk about with you in The Sorcerer's Stone is linguistic wordplay. I don't want to focus too much on this and talking a lot about it because we've talked about this with Alice and other texts, but I want you to, see it and kind of think about why it is used in this text. The one that I want to point out to you is the Mirror of Erised, and if you haven't noticed yet, it's the word desire backwards. So there's other things that she uses throughout the text. You might look at the names of people as well as other things. The discussion question below that talks about linguistic wordplay gives you some more ideas to look at and think about why it is that Rowling has decided to use linguistic wordplay in this text. The next literary term that I want to talk to you about is foreshadowing. So foreshadowing is a literary device in which the writer gives an advanced hint of what is to come later in the story. And a lot of times it might take a second read before you realize that something is foreshadowing, or once you get done at the end of the text, then you realize, oh, that's why that was in there. I thought that was strange. So Rowling uses this throughout the Sorcerer's Stone. She uses it throughout her series as a whole to build it, but she uses it even specifically within the story frame of the Sorcerer's Stone to give you a hint of what's coming at the very end. And specifically, she has a lot of foreshadowing that she uses to hint at that battle that's going to happen between Harry and Voldemort at the end. So again, there's a discussion question below that focuses on that and picking out the different pieces of foreshadowing that she uses. So the next question, or the literary element that I want to talk about, is specifically around genre. So a lot of scholars have arguments basically about what genre the Sorcerer's Stone really fits into. So some see that it has big aspects of high fantasy. It's that adventure quest story, which we'll talk more about on Monday. But there's also a lot of aspects of realism. It also aligns with school stories because all of the series, except if you get towards the end, no spoilers, really focus on that Hogwarts setting, and it goes through the school year. But also some people see them as mysteries, and you could talk more about that as well. So what I want to talk to you about is magical realism. So in other words, while the setting takes place in a magical world of wizards, the text focuses on realistic elements of growing up, such as making friends, playing sports, dealing with bullies, and completing schoolwork. So I want you to look more about the aspects that are used within the text to make this story fit into the genre of magical realism, and think about how that can help a reader connect with the text and connect with the characters more.